Welcome to Reasonable Religion. Today I'll be discussing 8 reasons I believe God exists. Reason number 1. One of the things that I've noticed for people who do not believe that God exists is that they define a God in which I don't believe. So, for example, an atheist would say something like, I don't believe in God because God is evil. Well, I don't believe in an evil God either. And if you go to my last video, you'll see exactly why I don't believe in an evil God and why the God I believe in is necessarily good by definition. They might also say something like, God is angry, God is selfish. The truth is, I don't believe in that God either. So it's really important how we define God, and that is the task of theology. We often base our definitions of God on our relationships. So if I've met many selfish people and the epitome of selflessness is a very low standard in terms of the people I've interacted with, then unfortunately, I might think that God himself is selfish, not selfless. If many people I've met in the world are angry, or I've never met somebody who is calm enough or peaceful enough, then perhaps my image of God is skewed. So if our definition of God is limited to our experience of others and then reflected back onto the definition of God, we may have an issue, and we have to discuss who is the God you're rejecting, who is the God you're accepting. The second reason I believe that God exists is because of the existence of morality. And this is a debate back and forth between atheists and theists or deists. I will pull the professor card here. So I am a professor of theology and I am also specialized in ethics. And I have not found a single convincing argument that compels me to think that ethics and morality can exist, or that standards of morality can exist apart from their foundation and grounding in God. Let me be a little bit more precise. You can be moral and you can be ethical without believing in God. You cannot defend those ethical claims. You cannot defend moral claims without belief in God. So it is their defense. It is saying that one thing is better than another. It is a hierarchy of values that cannot be achieved without belief in God. And since I do believe there is a moral standard and there are moral maxims, I do believe in God. Reasons number 3 and 4 collapse into one title, which is that atheism requires faith. You've probably heard this before, but one area where atheism requires faith is that if I am an atheist, I must believe that all things that have been created were created from nothing by nothing. I think it's much more probable that all things that we see are created by somebody, even if it's out of nothing. You cannot experimentally reproduce something being created out of nothing. And if you go, there are experiments in which they put things into vacuums, although vacuums are not nothing, to see if there would be any spontaneous combustion or existence of particles. You cannot reproduce something coming into existence out of nothing. And in any case, you cannot reproduce the creation of the universe. So to say that it is scientifically invalid to be religious, or that if you are not religious, then you believe in science, is not quite accurate, because there are gaps in the logic and gaps in the scientific evidence, and the creation of the universe is certainly one of those. The fourth point, which is a subpoint of atheism requiring faith, is that the universe has order, beauty, organization. And the second law of thermodynamics states that entropy tends to increase within a system. Entropy here is disorder, disorganization, chaos. So left to its own, it doesn't make any sense that the world would be created the way in which it was. If anything, the creation of the universe should have led to further chaos, not further organization. It is clear that there is an order, that there is not increasing chaos. If I were to pick up a watch on the street, I wouldn't say it is incredible how this watch came together spontaneously and tended to come into this organization out of non-organization on its own. I would say it's a really nice watch made by a watchmaker. Same argument applies to the universe, to the world. I am much more convinced that the order of the world was created by a person rather than completely by chance. The probability of the latter is very unstatistical, and in my estimation would require a great deal of faith. Point number 5. If I were not to believe in God, then I would necessarily have to believe that every single person who has ever had any religious notion from the existence of the universe until this point in time were absolutely wrong on all religious accounts. So the fact that there are many religions across human history, more likely than not, points to the existence of a God. Someone might respond and say, well, religion across history has just been a coping mechanism for the difficulties of the universe. And it doesn't seem like that's always the case. It doesn't explain all religious practices. It doesn't explain all religious experiences. Humans by nature are never entirely satisfied. We're seeking for something that fulfills us, that is outside of us. That thing, that person is God. Point number 6, I alluded to earlier. One thing I notice in the debate between those who are religious and those who are non-religious is that those who are non-religious will say that I believe in science. I believe only in what I see and what I experience. First of all, science and religion are entirely compatible. There's nothing that has been discovered in science that is contradictory, at least to the Christian faith. Second of all, nobody entirely believes only in what they sense, in what they see, in what there is evidence for. Easy example is love. Everybody believes in love. You've experienced love. Love is beyond words. Love is beyond comprehension. Love is beyond the molecular level. You wouldn't say that my experience of love is simply the release of endorphins. The result of my loving somebody might end in the release of endorphins. The release of endorphins is not what causes me to love somebody. There may be some level of attraction and level of chemistry, as they call it, something on the molecular level. It is common human experience that the experience of love between family, between friends, between spouses goes well beyond something that we can simply explain by the release of certain chemicals in the body. So we don't just believe in what we experience with our 5 senses. There's an experience beyond that which we're able to articulate. Point number 7, humans are distinct. We have a consciousness that is distinct about us. We're able to think abstractly. We are aware of our existence. We're able to take ourselves outside of our existence for a second and reflect on our existence. We have an inherent sense of the divine and the supernatural, which I mentioned previously in this video. And the most interesting distinction, and it may be attributed to our freedom, being created in the image and likeness of God within the Christian tradition, is that humans are able to act in contradiction to their own flourishing, against their own nature. This is not a trivial point. Dogs must be dogs. Lions must be lions. All the rest of creation, trees, must be trees. Humans do not necessarily have to be human. We do not have to do that which is good for our flourishing. We can act contrary to our nature, to our own detriment. This is an unfortunate reality, but it is also part and parcel of our God-given freedom. Lastly, point number 8, I believe in God because I have seen those who have experienced God, who have been transformed by God, and who carry God in themselves. There is no way to encounter a person who has been truly transformed by God and still have doubt as to his existence. That's all I have for today. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment with what you want to see on your next video. Thank you to all the support so far. I will see you guys at the next video.